Writing equations in slope-intercept form. So what we did is we graphed equations in slope-intercept form a couple of days ago. And today we're going to actually write equations in slope-intercept form. So this is a review. You should already have this in your notes. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Remember, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So let's go ahead and look at our first example. It says write an equation of the line that passes through 2, 1 with a slope of 3. Okay? So very first thing I'm going to start with is I notice it says I've got a slope of 3. Okay, so that's where I'm going to start my problem. If you remember from the first page, my equation was y equals mx plus b, correct? And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that slope of 3, and where am I going to put it? Where am I going to put that 3? In place of m, right. So I now have y equals 3x plus b. Now if you notice, b is the y-intercept, correct? Do they give me the y-intercept in that problem anywhere? No. What do they give me? They give me a point. And so the coordinates here, and I know that when I'm talking about a point, I am referring to an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate, correct? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sub in 2 for x, and I'm going to sub in 1 for y. So down here I said I'm going to sub in 1 for y, and I'm going to sub in what for x? 2. Good. So now by doing that, if you notice, what's the only variable left? B. So now I'm going to be able to solve. I know that 3 times 2 is 6. How do I solve that for b now? Subtract 6. Very good. And what do I get b to equal? -5. So my final step will be to write my equation using my slope of 3 and my y-intercept of what? -5. That's what I just found. Okay, remember, that's what I just found right here is my y-intercept. So whatever that last thing you find, you're going to substitute it into the equation. All right, we're going to look at another one of those. So write an equation of the line that passes through 4, -7 with a slope of -1. So if I were taking notes, I would just put slope of -1 passes through 4, -7. Okay, so instead of writing everything down, so if you remember, I start with what equation? Yep. Y equals mx plus b. Very good. And now, what am I going to do? What is the very first thing I'm going to do? Yep. Where am I going to put the -1? In for m. Nice job. So I get y to equal -1x plus b. Do they give me the y-intercept in the problem? Nope. So what am I going to do now? Yep. Where do I put -7? In for the y. Very good. And then what do I do now? Very good. So I'm going to utilize this point again, remember? And I'm going to plug in the values for x and y. Let's go ahead and do that. I get -7 to equal -4 plus b. How do I solve that for b? Add 4 to both sides. So I end up getting what on the left side? Okay. So my new equation is y equals, close. Yep, want to keep the y. -x, and then what? Plus -3. Very good. So my final answer will always have an x and a, well, won't always, but most of the time it will have an x and a y and it'll look just like this. Okay. So now let's look at this problem right here. Write an equation of the line that passes through 3, 1 and 2, 4. So as you're writing this down, I want you to think, okay, how is this different from the previous problems? So how is it different? It doesn't give the slope. Okay, instead of saying it passes through this point and has a slope of this, it just says it passes through these 2 points. So what I need to do very first is I need to find the slope between these 2 points. And that's something we've already looked at, okay, in the previous chapter. Remember how we find the slope between 2 points? Remember, I'm going to let m equal. And in this case, I'm going to do y2 minus y1. So I do 4 minus 1 divided by 2 minus 3. Very good. So now I need to calculate that. So what is 4 minus 1? 3. What is 2 minus 3? So my slope is negative 3. Good. So now I'm going to start with my equation. Y equals mx plus b. And what am I going to substitute in now? Perfect, negative 3 for m. So it's really similar to the problems we just got done doing. You just have a little work to start with. You have to find the slope first now. Now, if you remember in the previous problem, we substituted in the point we were given. Well, I'm given 2 points up there, so which one do I sub in? The 3, 1. It doesn't matter. You could sub either in, okay? If you sub 3, 1 in, you're going to get the same answer as if you sub 2, 4 in. So it doesn't matter. I'm just going to pick 3, 1 just because it's the first one, okay? But you could pick whatever one you want. So in place of y, I'm going to put, in place of x, I'm going to put 3. And it might help for you to write that point just to the left of the equation as I did, so that you can see easily what the x and the y values are. Negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. So what do you do now? So I get b to equal what? 10. So now I'm going to go up to that equation in purple that I have right here, and I'm going to copy everything down that's the same, except for in place of b, what am I going to put? 10. So once again, you're doing the exact same thing we did in the first 2 problems with a step added on at the front. Yep.
So it doesn't matter what you put.
Nope. If you plug 2, 4 in to this equation, you will get 10 as well. And in fact, we'll do that on the next one. We'll switch it up. We'll have half the class do one point, half the class do the other point. Okay, write an equation of the line that passes through 1, or negative 1, 12, and 4, negative 8. So negative 1, 12, and 4, negative 8. Now we have to be careful here because anytime you have a negative sign, it seems like whenever we find the slope, we always have trouble with that. So I'm going to take negative 8 minus what number?
12.
Good. So negative 8 minus 12 divided by what? 4 minus negative 1. So let's go ahead and calculate those. What is negative 8 minus 12? Negative 20, because it's 2 negatives. It's like negative 8 plus negative 12. On the bottom, what do you do with those 2 negative signs? Yep, change them. So really it's 4 plus 1, which is? So my slope is? Negative 4. So what's my equation going to be? Y equals Like with what?
Negative 4x.
Negative 4x plus b. Okay, so this is the thing. I want these three, or these four right here. I want you guys to plug in the point negative 112. Kayla, you, McKenna, and John, I want you to plug in 4, negative 8. Okay? So, you 4 over here, you plug in negative 112. You 3 over there, you plug in 4, negative 8. And I don't want you to confer. I want you to just go ahead and find what b is. So we've just shown that it really doesn't matter because either way when you solve this, you get b to equal 8. Okay, and that's a negative 16, so if you add 16 to both sides you get 8. So it really doesn't matter what point you use. Your final equation should have been y equals negative 4x plus 8. So a good rule of thumb I use. I always try and pick the one that has both the positive numbers, doesn't have the negatives. Let's look at one more and then we'll call it good for today. So we're going through the point 5, negative 8, and negative 7, 0. What's my first step?
0 minus negative 8.
Okay, find the slope. Yep, so I get 0 minus negative 8 over what?
Negative 7 minus 5.
Negative 7 minus 5 in unison. Okay, so here we go. 0 minus negative 8 is 8. Negative 7 minus 5 is negative 12. So here I get something a little bit interesting because I don't get a whole number. So what number both goes into 8 and 12? 4. So really, what would this fraction reduce down to? Yep. So negative 2/3. Yeah. Ooh. But that's okay. So my equation is going to look like this. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus b. Now, what point to use? If I were going to pick a point, I'm going to use the point negative 7, 0. Can somebody guess why? Because it has a 0 in it. If you look at both points, they both have a positive and a negative. And so then I'm going to use the point that has a 0 because anytime you can throw a 0 in there, it's going to make things a little easier. So in place of y, I'm going to put 0. In place of x, I'm going to put negative 7. Now, here the question is, how do you multiply those two? Remember, I'm going to take the negative 2 times negative 7, and what do you get? 14. Now, hopefully you're seeing why the 0 has been beneficial. Because now to solve that, I'm going to subtract 14/3, correct? So what is 0 minus 14/3?
Negative.
Yeah, negative 14/3. So my final equation, remember I'm going to go to that purple one that I started with, and I'm just going to plug b in. negative 2/3 x, and then what? Nice job, plus negative 14/3. There you go. Questions? These are the two types of problems you're going to have today. Okay, your assignment is going to be on page 229 through 230. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick. 229 through 230, 10 through 37 all. Now, actually, you know what? We'll cut off. I'll cut off to 30. 10 through 30 y'all. Okay, so 10 through 30 all for, and this is actually going to be turned in Tuesday when you get back from break.